Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at the Keep on Top feature of the Notes app on your Mac. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So sometimes we use the Notes app to take notes while we have something else on the screen. For instance, you may be looking at a web page, and that web page may have information, and then you're using the Notes app to take notes. You may be looking at a presentation in Zoom or another app and taking notes during a class or meeting. One of the challenges is finding the screen space for all of that. So here we've got a standard desktop, and I've got a window here that's taking up the entire screen showing my web browser. Now, if I also want to bring up the Notes app, that takes up a lot of space as well. And you can see here, I really don't have enough space to see the text of the web page and have the note open at the same time. But if you have more real estate on your screen, you can kind of adjust things like this, maybe get rid of the sidebar here, and maybe flip back and forth between these two windows. But what's nicer is that you can actually open up a Notes window that's independent of the main window here with all the sidebars and such. So all you need to do for that is Control-click, right-click, or two-finger click on the note in the list here, and then choose Open Note in New Window. Or I could just double-click it, and then you can see how it opens up this note here in a second window that just has the note. I'm still seeing it over here, and if I actually were to type something, you can see how it appears in both places. So there's only one note. I'm just viewing it in two different ways. But then the great thing is I can have this little window over here taking up less space, and then have that coexist a little bit better with a larger window with a meeting or with a web page. But let's say you want to take up more space with the content. Now you're switching back and forth. If I bring the note up, it's covering part of the window. If I bring the window forward, it's covering the note. Now, while logically you have to choose one or the other there, it can be annoying to have to click in this window to say click a link or navigate in some other way, and then you have to bring the note back to the front. You can tell this window to stay in front using a special command in Notes. So to do that, it's important to understand that this has to be in a separate window. So you can't do it if the note is being viewed here in the main Notes window with the sidebar and the list of notes. You have to break it out by double-clicking into another window like this. Once it's in another window, you can go to the Window menu and you see Keep on Top. Notice if I have the main Notes window selected, in the Window menu, there is no Keep Note on Top. Instead, it's Open Note New Window, that same command we used before by just double-clicking. So you have to have this window selected, the little individual window, not the main Notes window. Then you can select Keep on Top. Now when I select that, it doesn't seem like anything has changed. If I go to the Window menu now, I can see a check mark next to Keep on Top for this window. So it is being kept on top. But to actually see that in action, we need to try to use another window, like maybe this main Notes window. If I select it, notice how I've got it selected, but it didn't jump on top of this window. I can actually drag this around. This main Notes window is now the frontmost active window. This window, however, didn't go behind it like a normal window should. That's because it now has this special feature where it's kept on top. It's not the active window. You can see here that the top here is all kind of grayed out. If I select it, you can see now the top isn't grayed anymore, and I can actually type in the note. So you still have to select the window to type, but it doesn't disappear behind other windows. Now, if I were to bring Safari back up, notice how the Safari window opens, but it doesn't go in front of this window. It's still the frontmost window. It's still the one that's active, the one that if I were to type, it would type in this window, but this window isn't hidden. So it's a little easier to see the notes there and to go back and forth between it. Now to turn this off, you would go to Window and turn off Keep on Top. And now you can see that when I select Safari, it comes to the front and it hides this window. So let's go and select Keep on Top again. And this is a special feature of the Notes app and these little individual Notes windows. It's not in other apps. Like Safari doesn't have Keep on Top. Most other apps don't. Now, some things you should know about this. One is you really can't use the app switcher with this. So if I use the app switcher here and I switch to Notes, you would think it would activate this window. What it actually does is bring the main Notes window to the front. So it doesn't work very well, except I can close this main Notes window. And now I can switch between Safari and Notes with Command Tab, the app switcher, very easily. So for using only the keyboard, it works really well. I can use page down or FN and down to page through this window. I can Command Tab back to notes, and I can move around with the keyboard in this Notes app and type something. Now, when you close this window, it's closed, and if you go back to Notes here and you double click to open this one up, notice it's not Keep on Top anymore. So closing the window gets rid of this flag here. So you have to turn it back on. Now, another interesting thing is this actually works with full screen mode, but there's some catches. So let's close this here and just have Notes in the regular single main Notes window mode here. And let's go to Safari, and I'm going to click the green button here to enter full screen. So now it's full screen. If I do Control up arrow to enter mission control, you can see I've got my regular desktop. There's the Notes window on it, and I've got a full screen space. That is Safari. So it would be nice to be able to bring up the floating Notes window here in full screen. In fact, you can, but it's a little tricky. So I'm going to use Control left arrow to go back to this space here. First, I'm going to open up this window, and I can move it around. I could set it to keep on top. So now it does, even if I select the other window behind it. Now, how do I get it over to that other space? Strangely, if you were to Control up arrow to enter mission control, the little floating window goes away. It's like it's not even there. So I can't use that. But here's what you can do. You can click and drag this window. You have to be dragging it. So with a trackpad, I'm holding down with my thumb and using my index finger to drag around. With a mouse, you would be clicking and holding down and dragging. So you have to be in the middle of dragging. And then with your other hand on the keyboard, use Control and the right arrow to go to the next space. But before I do that, I'm going to put it where I want. And I'll explain why in a minute. So I'm going to put it here in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm still dragging it, still moving it around, as you can see. Control right arrow. And now it appears there. And now I've got a floating Notes window here in full screen mode with this Safari window. It behaves just like it did before. But I actually have another window here intruding on the full screen space. This allows me to continue taking notes even when I'm in full screen mode. Now there's some weird things about this. One is you can't move this window. That's why I positioned it in the correct spot before. If I click at the top here, it won't let me drag. No matter what I do, I can't drag it around. So I put it in the proper place before. But it gets even weirder because you can resize. So I can grab the bottom left corner and drag like that, meaning I can reposition the window because I could drag it like this and then drag the other corner like that. And you could see how I repositioned it there. I'll drag the top and then I'll drag the bottom and you can see how I repositioned it there. So by resizing it in creative ways, you can actually move it around. Now, strangely, even though you can't drag it anywhere, if you click and hold down like you are dragging it and do Control left arrow to go back to this space, it actually will go with your pointer back to this space. So that's kind of nice. But of course, you could also just simply close the window like that. And you still have it here. It's easy to double click and open up another one. And it also works the same way in split view. So here I've got a Pages document open. I'm going to go to Mission Control, drag this over, and create a split view space. So like full screen, but two apps instead of one. And I can go back here, double click to open this note, go to Window, keep on top, and then while dragging, do Control right arrow. And now you can see I've got this float on top Notes window here living with both of the windows here in the split view. But what about Stage Manager? How does it work in Stage Manager? It actually works really well. So let's turn Stage Manager on first in Control Center here. So you can see I've got Safari, I've got Pages, and I've got Notes here. So let's go and open up this as a separate window. And then let's go to the Window menu and keep on top. So now this is on top here, and it behaves the same inside of this particular app set. Now, let's switch to Safari. Look what happens. The main Notes window, that goes with the Notes app set, but the float on top Notes window stays there on the Safari app set. If I go to Pages, it stays there as well. So I can switch between all the different app sets, and if I have a Notes window set to float on top, it stays there. This could be really handy if you use Stage Manager. Also, if you're curious, you can use more than one window as keep on top. So I can have this window here, set it to keep on top. I can go to this note here, and you can see I've got a second note that's hidden behind it because it's not keep on top and this is. I could set this one to keep on top. And these two windows now jockey for position as the windows that float on top. This window is always behind both of them. So it's like I've got two different levels. The level with keep on top right here, these two windows, and then everything else underneath those. So float on top is a handy little technique to know if you use notes on your Mac a lot, particularly if you use it in conjunction with other apps at the same time. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.